The Trade is brought to you by Vantage Markets, delivering one of Australia's most trusted and award-winning trading experiences. Explore smart trading at vantagemarkets.com.au.
Welcome to The Trade on this Tuesday morning. Before we get to the charts, let's take a look at what traders are watching. And Israel is refuting claims from U.S. President Donald Trump that a complete and total ceasefire between Israel and Iran will go into force with a view to ending the 12-day conflict between the two nations. Iran is currently saying that no ceasefire has been agreed to, but that it will stop firing if Israel does. With the apparent easing intentions in the Middle East, U.S. crude futures fell to their lowest level in more than a week. A federal judge has blocked, meantime, Trump's administration from implementing his plan to bar foreign nationals from entering the United States to study at Harvard. Reuters is reporting that Iran's three-man committee from a top clerical body has accelerated its succession planning from Khamenei in recent days since Israel began attacking Iran. So let's get across the technicals. Hebe Chen from Vantage Markets joins me now. Hebe, nice to see you again. Really appreciate your time as always. Look, could you just talk to us about the immediacy of the oil price and what's happening in the Middle East?
Well, yes, I think a lot of things are happening in the past 2 days, and especially last night. I think the ceasefire definitely have a quite significant impact on the oil price. We saw the oil price dip as much as 7%, and they almost gave up all the gains that's from the last week. Well, I think on the one side, that shows that the market is actually pretty eager to move on from the geopolitical storms, uncertainties there. While I think that quite realistically, it's definitely not yet to putting all this tension in the rear mirror to thinking that we have passed that. I think we're definitely not yet to the level yet, but it's just showing to me that the market is very keen to move on and to hopefully that we can get more of the peace and certainty in the near future.
Hebe, maybe I can then ask you a stock specific, and I believe you've brought a chart of Santos. Like, what happens here when you keep in mind the sharp drop that we've seen in the oil price?
Yeah, so the Santos is in my radar because not only because the oil price dipped sharply last night, which I think from today's reaction, the market is actually quite calm to the Santos. The stock price has been down about roughly 1% compared to the Woodside and other energy stocks. Seems to be quite calm on that. And putting addition to that is you can see the Santos price actually has been up quite significantly this year, about 47% from April low level. And supporting that is not just by high oil prices, but quite a stronger production outlook. And more importantly, is the corporate catalyst, a 30 billion takeover proposal, which I think will pretty much likely to keep the investors' interest pretty high. For technically, you can see the stock has broken above its long-term descending trend line starting from August 2024 and cleared that the key resistance at 743. And they're putting a price gap here, which is in between 709 and 765, which I think will be a key area to keep watching. If the case is that even a bit of pullback or a bit of the reset in the upcoming 2 days, given the oil prices fluctuative, that I think that if the prices gap in between 709 and 765 could hold steady, that would potentially help the price to resume its recent uptrend rally. On the other hand, if you're looking for the momentum indicators, you can see that actually pretty strong. The KDJ has still holding above 80. It's a bit of get into the overbought area, so a bit of a near-term pullback is quite likely. But as long as the price is, as I said, holds above the 740 level, and you can see the MACD still shows a bullish close over there. So overall, I think the structure-wise, the setup-wise looks to me that it's still quite a healthy consolidation, but within a quite broader option for the Santos price.
Okay, so that's Santos. While we are on corporates, I'd love to get your thoughts on the Australian travel space, particularly because the Virgin Australia IPO has obviously sprinkled a bit of fairy dust around the place. Look, I guess an old school sort of play on travel here in Australia would be Flight Centre. Is there anything interesting in the charts there?
Yes, exactly. So Flight Centre got my attention, for a similar reason. I think because of Virgin's IPO, that will catching quite a lot of attention this week. I think that the travel sector will be back on traders' radars, and Flight Centre is probably one of them to watch. But if you're looking for the technical wise, I would say that overall the technical setup actually showing quite a bearish picture to me. You can see that the price has broken below the key support level, which is 1363. Why this level is so crucial? Because this is a level that actually held quite for multiple times between 2020 and 2022. So the price is now hovering just above the long-term floor between 1197 and 1212. And don't forget, if you're looking back, this level is the level last seen the October 2020, even before that COVID restriction been eased. So it's actually has been dipped into quite low level for the Flight Centre. But if you're looking for the downside potential, I think the downside for the price is probably not yet over. As you can see, the momentum indicators like KDJ continue to trend lower, suggesting that more pressure may be ahead for the Flight Centre. So overall, I think nearly all the major technical indicators, either from the moving average to the momentum-wise, all suggest the path ahead will be still quite choppy, quite bumpy for Flight Centre. I think the potential for them to get back into the April low level below 12 is quite likely to me.
Okay, so we'll watch that one with much interest. Now, we haven't talked about gold. We know that it's obviously, fallen out of a little bit of favor, although the fundamentals still look good. But maybe beyond gold, can we talk about silver? Because it is up exponentially, I think about 22% year to date. Can the momentum continue?
Well, yes, you're right. I think the silver has quietly become one of the strongest performer this year. As you mentioned, 22% up if you compare to about 10% up for the US stocks, about 4% up for Aussie stocks. Actually performed pretty well. One thing that I'm putting up this chart here with a little bit of comparison in between the silver and gold. I'm putting up the yellow line here, which is checking the gold's price movement. As you can tell from here that the silver price actually a bit of lagging behind the gold price, about 28% up this year. But if you're looking compared to the price slope this year compared to last year, you can see that it's actually notably steeper in 2025 compared to 2024. So which for me is probably a clear sign of the acceleration of the momentum. So while it's still behind gold at this stage, but I think the silver is clearly playing catch up that with the potential to narrow the gap into the second half of 2025. In terms of price point, that the silver price recently has climbed its 13-year peak, that the peak back to September 2012 at 34.40. That's a major technical milestone for the silver price. The next psychological target will be sitting at about $40, which also coincide with the 2011-2012 high level. So potentially we're seeing the price back into the 13 years high. So current structure suggests there's still plenty of room for the rally to extend. The momentum wise, you can see that also support the bullish case. The KTJ is firmly in overbought area with all the three lines above 78. Also, the MACD remains positive with both signals lying in bullish alignment, confirming the uptrend remains quite valid to me. So compared to gold, while it's still slightly lagging behind, but I think the upside potential for the silver still quite decent to me.
Well, thank you for those charts, Hebe. I really appreciate having you on the trade today. And that does it for this edition of The Trade. Stay with us.
The Trade was brought to you by Vantage Markets, delivering one of Australia's most trusted and award-winning trading experiences. Explore smart trading at vantagemarkets.com.au.